So when it doesn't work, that's, oh, wow. Yeah, I guess it feels too loud. I don't know. Yeah? Okay. Well, hello. It's Gilead Healing Center. Helena Miller here. I am really excited about tonight because allergies and asthma is a topic that is something that I experienced personally growing up as a kid and a young adult. So for those of you who do not know, I have a background in respiratory therapy. I was a respiratory therapist for 20 years. And I became that because I knew very well what it was like to not be able to breathe. I was 5 years old, I think. No, maybe more like 7 or 8. I know I was young. I was in elementary school somewhere. And I did a track and field day at the school. It was just a special event for us younger kids. And I remember, the only thing I really remember about it is running. I didn't do anything else. So I ran around the big track, this little girl, and I got about halfway around the track and I couldn't breathe. And I remember doing one of these numbers, like, just bending over, trying to catch my breath and, just huffing and puffing. And I stayed in that position long enough that my parents came running from across the field. And I was done that day. I didn't do anymore. And I didn't know why I couldn't breathe. And so my mother took me to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, I think she has asthma and she might have allergies. She probably should have an allergy test. Have you ever had an allergy test? Well, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a very pleasant experience, especially as a child. You get to lay really still on your belly, and they put drops of different allergens on your back. You have to lay really still so they don't pool together. And then they prick each one of them with a needle to expose you to it. And then they wait and see which ones get red and angry. And then they say, oh, this is the one you're allergic to. So I had the pleasure as a young child to be allergic to trees, grass, dust, dogs, cats, almonds, and mold. Basically my whole life. My parents raised dogs. We never did cats, thankfully. Mold's everywhere. And I was a young country bumpkin kid. I was out in the woods and the trees and the grass and the dust all the time. That's just what we did. We were outside. And so I suffered a lot. I had terrible stuffy nose. Anybody ever have a stuffy nose? Like you can't breathe, your eyes are itching like crazy. I had all that a lot. I would get recurring bronchitis. And I carried around an albuterol inhaler. I got my first one at a young age, and I carried that around with me up until the day I was around 41 years of age. As a respiratory therapist and as a patient back then, I was told basically this is going to be your life. Helena, you're going to always have to have this inhaler just in case you need it. And I 100% believed it. And as a respiratory therapist, I 100% believed it too. I never saw anybody that could not need an inhaler at some point or another. And I certainly needed my inhaler. And I was so addicted to it mentally that once I started really working on my health at the age of 40 or just before 40, it took me about a year of not having any symptoms, no asthma symptoms, to be able to not carry it in my purse. Because I had this thought in my mind that if I didn't have it, I was absolutely going to need it, right? Because that was my experience. And so tonight I want to educate you on why do people have allergies and asthma and what you can do about it. I want to give you some tips on how to get started, practical things you can use today that will help you to get started on helping and assisting your body to not be so reactive to things, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, what are allergies? The definition of an allergy is an undigested protein. So having said that, or with that definition, where do you think, if you're a person with allergies and asthma, or even just allergies, where do you think you should start focusing your attention? If the true definition is undigested protein, what you eat, yeah, or how well you're digesting your food. Because if you're not breaking your food down and it's sitting in your gut and fermenting, because we know that carbohydrates, if we don't break them down, they ferment. We know that proteins, if we don't break them down properly, they putrefy in the gut. And we know, we just know that that causes a very volatile environment in the gut. No worries. But allergies really is an abnormal immune response. And so there's multiple factors as to why the immune system is not functioning the way we need to, or the way, we expect it to, but it really is just abnormal. The normal symptoms obviously are the sneezing, the runny nose, itchy eyes, sometimes hives. People will tell me, well, I have spring allergies, I have summer allergies, my allergies come in the fall. I have allergies all year round, right? Some people are just year-round allergy people, and they really don't have a reprieve from it, unfortunately. And I do find, and for myself, my allergies were accompanied eventually with my asthma. So they go hand in hand. Both are an immune response that's not normal. Now this slide, I apologize, this next slide, the bottom part is hard to see, but I will tell you, it's really valid. I didn't want to take it out of there, and I'll share with you what's underneath there. So this is what a balanced immune system should look like, okay? Optimal effectiveness right there in the middle. But sometimes we can have an immune overreaction. So what that looks like internally is an autoimmune problem. So your Hashimoto's, your lupus, your rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, things like that. And an external threat would be the things that I had, which was the asthma, the allergies, the eczema. I didn't really have eczema, but I was allergic to trees, grass, dust, all the things, right? And so, but then there is also an immune underreaction, and that on the right, on your left side, it says cancer. You can barely see it, okay? Cancer type situations. And then on the right, it's infections, co-infections, like Lyme, bacteria, parasites, things like that, okay? And so we want a nice balance right in the middle, but most people I find are far too toxic and far too deficient, and therefore their immune system is out of whack, out of balance. And these autoimmune people, there's not enough doctors for them. They have to go to the specialist, and I hear from them all the time in clinical practice that it takes forever to get an appointment, especially your first one. You're going to wait a while, months oftentimes, at least in our general area. And so that's why it's so important to really understand how to help balance your immune response, and maybe set on a journey to help your body naturally, okay? This next slide talks about what is an abnormal immune response, right? Because most people don't know. It's when your body responds to things abnormally that it should not respond to. It should be able to handle things normally. And that's like me. My body should have been able to handle the trees, grass, and dust. My body should have been able to handle the dogs and the cats and the mold, but it just couldn't, okay? So I ran around with, tissues in my pocket all the time, itchy eyes, and wheezy lungs. The simple irritants caused me to have a huge inflammatory response. That's what asthma can be, is an inflammatory response. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that happens, but it can damage the tissues, okay? And if you know about gut microbiome, then you might know a little bit about 70% of your immune system responses in your gut. So if you don't have a healthy gut, which is a majority of people that come into our clinical practice because they just don't know what they don't know, then again, are you going to be breaking down and digesting your food properly? Probably not. You need certain bacteria in your gut in order to do certain things. They have jobs, okay? Sorry, felt like this was falling off, Gabby. Got my operator headset on tonight. So important to have a good gut microbiome. So that's one of the things that we do in clinical practice is help people replenish that microbiome in the gut if it's necessary for them. And oftentimes it is. Let's talk about seasonal allergies and nutrition. Again, start by rebuilding the gut and the intestinal lining. So leaky gut looks like this. There are proteins that the gut lining is supposed to be, there's a mucosal lining, what's a thick layer of mucus inside the gut. And inside of that are little finger-like projections, okay? And they help take up nutrients, okay? But they have tight junctions, so none of the bad stuff gets through, right? Because then it would go into the bloodstream, and then we have this response, this abnormal response. And so oftentimes when people come to us, this is what happens, like this is spread apart and inflamed, and the mucosal lining gets damaged. And so then now we're leaking into the bloodstream these proteins that don't belong. And therefore we get this response that the body doesn't do well with, okay? So that's leaky gut. So we try to put people on anti-inflammatory diets. What does that look like? Well, that looks like avoiding soy, corn, sugar, all the vegetable oils, the bread, rice, pasta. Why? Because those things are highly processed and inflammatory. Most of the grains, if not all, in our country, unfortunately, especially the wheat products, are full of glyphosate. Anybody know what glyphosate is? Okay. Glyphosate is found in Roundup. Roundup is a known carcinogen. Roundup was made by Monsanto, now made by Bayer, because Bayer bought Monsanto. In Roundup is glyphosate. Glyphosate, again, known carcinogen, and it also destroys our collagen, which is important to know. And it acts like a pesticide in your gut. So it's just going to start causing a lot of damage. And far too many of us Americans, we eat way too much of it. It's in our food supply. It's in our water. It's really pretty concentrated in our environment. So we do need to know where it's at so we can try to avoid it at all cost. Okay. So if we want a healthy gut, we have to do that. We don't have a choice anymore. We have to do it. Have you ever heard of people going over to Europe or wherever and having bread and eating pasta and things, and they don't have upsets like they do if they eat it here? Right? Everybody here thinks they're gluten sensitive, right? Everybody here says they can't have gluten. But is it really the gluten? Or is it the wheat itself? Because it's been tainted, right? I believe it's mostly that people just don't tolerate eating the wheat. But we get this whole thing about gluten, and we want to focus on the gluten, which is fine. You can focus on the gluten if it keeps you away from the wheat, right? That's okay. So anti-inflammatory diet looks like a lot of protein. It looks like eggs. It looks like butter. It looks like low oxalate vegetables, okay? So that the body can just have a nice even blood sugar throughout the day, right? Maybe a couple little spikes from your meals and none of these big, huge spikes from the sugar and the flour and all the things, okay? That's what that looks like. Getting enough vitamin D and getting enough omega-3 fatty acids is essential also. So these are some things that you can start doing at home. Okay, so you might say, Helena, how am I supposed to stop taking my antihistamines? Well, maybe you can't right away. Maybe you can't, right? But you need to know that antihistamines stop your body from being able to create what's called homeostasis, okay? That's your body's balance. That's your body's triage system. That's the state of being that the body is always trying to be at, is homeostasis, okay? Your body does that by shifting fluids, and if you're taking these antihistamines, it's going to interfere with that process, okay? And your body really does that just to protect your vital organs, because you have to have that good fluid triage system in order to keep everybody happy in the body, okay? And also, research shows that taking antihistamines can lead even to cancer in the long term I believe because of that imbalance in the body's triage system, the homeostasis. Here are some potential side effects of antihistamines. I don't know if you have ever been on Benadryl, but I've been on Benadryl before. Ooh, talk about wanting to go night-night, right? Sleepy, loopy. Yeah, I definitely had the sedation, not really the dizziness. Lassitude, I had to look that word up. I'm being honest with you, I didn't know what that meant. But what lassitude is, a state of mental weariness and fatigue or lack of energy. Okay? Now, a lot of our patients come to us in this state. And the reason is because they just don't drain well. Their body just does not drain toxins out well. Most people don't poop well. Most Americans hold on to 10 to 12 pounds of undigested fecal matter in the gut. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because it's important, especially when it comes to allergies and asthma, because, the body tries to get those toxins out through the liver. And if it can't, guess what? Those toxins get recycled back to the heart and lungs. And they get really, the lymphatic system gets very congested with toxins that were supposed to go down and out the body into the toilet, okay? And when the body has these extra toxins coming through the system, where does the body want to take care of it at? Through the skin, through the mucous membrane. So it's going to create more mucus. You're going to have phlegmy coughs. You're going to have snotty nose. You're going to have itchy, watery eyes. And you're even going to maybe have some asthma, because the lungs are very smart. The lungs know that those toxins don't belong there. So what are they going to do? They're going to spasm. That's called asthma, right? I never learned that as a respiratory therapist. Never did I learn that, okay? But that's the truth. That's physiology. In asthma, you feel like you can't get enough air in. But in actuality, you can't get the bad air out. So your airway is round, right? The bronchial tubes that lead to your lungs are round, and when you breathe in, they expand a little bit, and when you exhale, they get smaller. That's normal. But when you have spasming, and then what the body does in order to get those toxins out that it doesn't like, it also creates a lot of mucus in order to carry that toxin up and out what's called the ciliary ladder, mucociliary ladder. And so you've got this smaller space, and I'm going to show you. Can we go to the, yeah, okay. So you see that's a bronchial tube on the right, and then the, it would be your left, and then the clear one. So can you see how there's less space in there? Because you've got the spasming and then the mucus. That's where the wheezing comes from, because again, you take the breath in, and some people can wheeze on the way in too, but most people will just wheeze on the way out because the space gets smaller and you've got a smaller hole and you're like, right? Yeah, okay. But that's what it's supposed to look like on your right. A nice clear airway without bronchospasm. Now, asthma can be triggered by many things. Often the same things that allergies can be triggered by: pets, foods, sometimes cologne, strong cologne or perfume, candle scents, those fake scents can really trigger people into an asthma attack. But I really think a lot of asthma, and I think my own personal asthma symptoms, I wasn't able to detoxify. I feel like because when I started to detoxify my body and I started to get my drainage funnel open, I needed my inhaler less and less. I stopped sneezing and blowing my nose less and less. Do you see what I'm saying? So I believe a lot of that is due to a detox pathway that doesn't work and a drainage funnel that doesn't work. And so the body's just trying to protect itself. And it will do that by pushing stuff out your skin and creating mucus to get it out, whatever it takes, right? Your body is equipped to do that. Okay, let's talk about dehydration because I feel like most people, and in fact, I'm just going to have a drink of water because I get dehydrated when I'm up here. Or at least I feel like it. Oh, I wanted to go back to, there's a story I wanted to tell you about the drainage funnel. I have a new patient that came to me a couple weeks ago. And she said, just today, she said, you know what, Helena? I'm feeling a lot better. And I'm not wetting my pants anymore. How many women are told that that's normal? We're told on the Poise commercials, it's right there, right? It's normal. You're going to have the Poise pads as you get older. And all I did was help open up her drainage funnel. She doesn't have to wear the Poise pads anymore. How cool is that? I'm here to tell you that made my day. That made my entire, well, it's probably my entire week. It's stories like that that just, they blow even my mind, right? What? I wasn't focused on bladder. I wasn't focused. In fact, she didn't even tell me really that there was a problem with that. At least it wasn't in my immediate notes. Whoa. Right? The power of the body, what the body can do if you just give it just a little bit. I gave her just a little bit of the right stuff. Hallelujah, right? That is so important. We just don't know what we don't know until we start working on these things. Okay, back to chronic dehydration. Your body needs water, and if you're not getting enough, what happens is that your body is in a state of dehydration, which causes a histamine release, okay? And that does that, your body does that to protect your vital organs. But sometimes the release becomes excessive, causing symptoms like asthma and allergies. Because if you think about it, when you exhale, this is on the next slide here. Yeah. When we breathe, when we exhale, we lose water, right? Your breath has vapor. So what the body will do is it'll try to shut that down in your lungs, try to make you spasm so you're not getting rid of too much water vapor because you're already in a dehydrated state. Does that make sense? Histamine has a role in the constriction of the bronchial muscles, and it's going to just attempt to conserve that, okay? So make sure you're hydrated. You look at my water, it's got color. It's got stuff in it. It always has salt in it. My body does really well with salty water. I use the good salt, of course, right? Not the Morton salt, but I use either a pink Himalayan salt or a good Celtic sea salt because I hydrate in my cells better that way. Because I tend to drink water too fast. It's very intentional for me to have to be slower and just drink my water slower because then I hydrate in my cells. What I find is either people don't drink enough water or they drink water, but they drink it too fast and they guzzle. I am that person. I worked in a hospital for 20 years. If you don't guzzle your water and swallow your food whole, practically, you're not going to get it sometimes, right? And so this is important. A lot of people just don't drink enough water, especially people with asthma and allergies. All right, so what can we do about it? Because we definitely got to do something about it, right? Who wants to suffer with that their whole life? Nobody. I thought I had to. I really did. I believed it 100%. And, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so what we got to do? What do we got to do? Well, we have to stay hydrated and pink salt in your water or Himalayan salt. We have to stay away from the inflammatory foods that we talked about. And how about adding some apple cider vinegar with the mother in it to your water a couple times a day? Just a couple tablespoons. What that does is it helps balance your pH, helps your liver at night. It gives you enzymes so you can digest your food better. Remember I said that the definition of an allergy is undigested protein. So it can help you in that respect as well. You're going to start healing your gut with proper nutrition and fermented foods and digestive enzymes. Collagen is another nutrient that we need for gut healing. Again, the glyphosate breaks down our collagen, and we make less of it as we get older, don't we? Right? Most people know that. And so when we think of collagen, most of us ladies anyway, right? We think of skin, hair, and nails. We want to age beautifully, right? That's what we think of. But the reality is we really need to focus on our gut, our bones, our ligaments, our joints. Collagen is our most abundant protein, and it's like our scaffolding of our body. And we need that to be strong, especially as we get older. And so an extra added benefit is, yes, that our skin will be smoother maybe, and our hair will grow longer and thicker, and our nails will be nice and strong. But really, when we're thinking what's most important is the inside of us, right? Getting enough omega-3 fatty acids we talked about, and getting enough vitamin D, but also eating your cruciferous vegetables. Does anybody know why that is? Anybody have an idea of why that would be? That's your broccolis and your cauliflowers and Brussels sprouts of the world. That's because cruciferous vegetables can help phase 1, phase 2 detox of the liver, right? Remember I talked about the toxins not getting out properly and having to be recirculated and then causing us problems. The more of those vegetables that we eat, we can help ourselves detox better. That makes sense? Yeah. For me, at least 2 teaspoons a day. I try to get closer to 3, but usually it's 2.5 teaspoons. Yeah. For my salt. So I drink it pretty salty. Most people can't, but I just have learned to. Yeah. You ever poke your finger and you leave your dent, right? You're like, or you pull your skin up and it stays, right? Right? That's kind of how I judge it. Like if halfway through the day I'm still leaving a dent in my finger, then I know I'm not as hydrated as I need to be, and I need to have more salt, right? But I usually have at least 2 liters of salty water every day. Okay? At least. Okay, we're going to get regular chiropractic adjustments. This is something that helped me too, but not until did I get into a good nutrition program did I see a good result, right? I just knew that back then I just always went to a chiropractor. My mom took me to a chiropractor when I was a young kid, and as a young adult, I just decided to start going again. And then, but I never really saw an improvement in my asthma symptoms until I became a patient in our office, our Frandor office, and that was, 11 years ago. Okay, my experience then was quite intense. I knew when I was first a patient, I knew that I was going to do this work. And so that was interesting, right? Like the first time a patient ever comes into your office saying, "Doc, I'm going to train," right? But I meant it. And when I started my journey, I cleaned up my diet very rapidly. And because I was very purposeful, like I wanted to do it well. I listened and I did what I was supposed to do, and I cleaned up my diet rapidly. And what I experienced was what most all of my patients experience. Because prior to that, my husband and I seemed like every Friday night we would have Jets Pizza, and I loved it. We loved Jets Pizza; it was our favorite. And I never realized how Jets Pizza really made me feel, right? Because I felt like boo-boo all the time, right? I was a mother of 2 at that point, and I had no energy. My feet hurt when I got out of bed, and I was not even 40. I wasn't quite 40 yet. Fatigue, brain fog, not sleeping well, trying to take care of 2 children and be a full-time respiratory therapist working 12-hour shifts. Okay. It was tough. But I was doing it. And so anyway, I cleaned up my diet. And so probably a good 3 months went by, no Jets Pizza. I was doing pretty good. And then I had a human moment. And I caved. It was probably my husband's fault. I'm just going to blame it on him. And man, let me tell you, I never felt so sick in my life. And I did not realize why. It blew my mind. I couldn't wrap my head around it. It never made me sick before, right? But that time it did. And when I went back in and I said, Doc, like, I don't understand it. And he said, you know what? You were down here before, right? You cleaned up your diet for 3 months and you got up here. You turned on all your bells and whistles. I don't know if he said that, but that's what he meant. I turned on all my bells and whistles that I couldn't hear when I was down here. Because you see, our body is designed just like your car. It has a check engine light. We just don't know how to listen to it half the time. Or we ignore it until the body's like, I ain't telling her. It's the same thing with chronic dehydration. People that they don't have the thirst, the indicator of thirst. They just don't drink water because they don't feel thirsty. Because for far too long, their bodies have been deprived and the body just says, forget it. She's not listening to me, right? So I was down there. I came up here and Jet's Pizza instantly dropped me down here, okay? But it was a wake-up call. And I look forward to when my patients experience that because it is a wake-up call and they don't want to do it again, right? It just is part of their journey. Okay, so getting regular adjustments. There are subluxations in the spine that can cause symptoms in asthma, and I probably had all of them, okay? But I kept subluxating. I kept having to get adjustments, and I never got to the result I wanted because I was missing the nutritional component, because nutrition and the way our spine is able to stay in alignment go hand in hand. That's why people who can do nutrition and chiropractic care, they get better faster, in my opinion, because the doctor is handling the spine and I'm handling the nutrition, and it's the best of both worlds, right? And then people start holding their adjustments better over time because they're not as nutritionally deficient as they once were. Okay, let's move on to your new food pyramid. Okay, you like that? I didn't do it. Dr. Jockers did, but he turned it upside down. So take a picture of that. This is basically how I teach all of my patients to eat. Okay, so we've got the good fats at the bottom, right? We've been told for a long time not to eat fat. During my childhood was when Don't Eat Butter came out, and my mother listened, and we got the can't believe it's not butter, right? I did that the rest of my childhood, literally. And I didn't start eating butter again until I was a young adult. And I don't even remember why, because I like it, right? I like it. I want butter. So my body innately knew. So then you've got your antioxidants, which is your non-starchy veggies and low glycemic fruits. But then the really big part that I think most people are missing in their diet today is clean protein, or just protein in general. When I look at food logs, and I do it every time, I'm like looking at my patients' food logs, they're not getting enough protein, especially red meat protein, okay? And so keep that in mind. If you really want to win at the food game and stay away from the starchy stuff and the grainy stuff and the sugary stuff, you have to eat red meat, eggs, and butter. You have to. Those are superfoods and they have a high satiety point, meaning they keep you satisfied for a long time, okay? Too many people eat all day long. They eat their meals, but then they graze because they're hungry. They're not satisfied. So they have 50 million blood sugar spikes all day, which is 50 million insulin spikes all day. Even if it's real food, right? You can still have too many blood sugar spikes and not lose a pound because your insulin locks in your fat cells and you're going to lose every time, especially if you have stress in your life. Who has stress in their life? Anybody? I mean, anybody? Okay. Yes, we all have stress. Some of us more than others, and it fluctuates, right, throughout our years on Earth. All right. So clean protein, fiber, nuts, and seeds. Yeah, so that's a good snack if you need a snack. I don't ever snack. I just eat enough meat, eggs, and butter that I don't need to snack. I generally have 2 blood sugar spikes in a day, 3 if I have coffee. Coffee's not my friend always, but I love coffee. So if I have to have a cup of coffee, then I have coffee. So then I have only 3 spikes a day, okay? Because I'm eating really only 2 good meals. Fermented foods, again, that's back to the gut microbiome, right? Kefir, yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, right? Pickled this, pickled that. And your natural sweeteners, okay? So stevia, raw honey, they've got this new natural sweetener called aluminum. Heidi, what's that called? Allulose. Thank you. I knew I wasn't right. I knew I was not getting it right. Okay, so that's at the top. So keeping your blood sugar nice and even throughout the day will help you reach your goals faster. If we have lots of blood sugar spikes and dips, we have lots of inflammation, we're pulling nutrients from our bones, especially calcium. And so it's important to understand that. So that's your new food pyramid. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what they say. But we have to think about this primarily. What did our ancestors eat? Right? Your ancestors ate a lot of red meat. My ancestors ate a lot of red meat. They made their own butter. I learned how to make butter in kindergarten. Mm-hmm. Right. We have to think about it primally. We wouldn't be here if that was terrible for you. And I will tell you, your dietary cholesterol that you're consuming, your body is not using that to clog up your arteries. Absolutely not. Your body is using that to make hormones. Okay? And cholesterol is a nutrient. Go back to the cholesterol pamphlet that I gave you, the myths about cholesterol, myths and truths about cholesterol, and you'll relearn about that. Okay? We eat less saturated fat than ever, and we still have heart disease. Okay? There's still blocked arteries. There's still need for a cath lab. There's still need for an open heart surgeon. Okay? So we just have to think about things primally. No. I mean, unless for some reason you're sensitive to red meat, and then there's a way we can handle that also. Okay. Yes. Okay. So the next slide says, key question is, why is my body not healing? You know, I don't get this question as often anymore. I used to get it more, but not lately. But the bottom line is we're far too toxic and far too deficient. I say this all the time, but it's absolutely true. Our nutrition or our toxins, they block our nutrition. It's like a roadblock. And then we need more and more nutritional supplements to kind of handle the problem. Okay. So the step 1 is to get the detox pathways open so that the toxins can flow out readily. So that starts with the bowel for sure. Most people, like I said, they don't poop good. And then once we get the bowel moving, then maybe the liver gallbladder area can dump toxins better. And sometimes the liver gallbladder area needs a lot of nutritional support to do its job and clean itself out. And then we have the lymphatic system that gets really congested like the scum on a pond, okay? And that's where we have a lot of skin issues or allergy, asthma symptoms, or headaches and fatigue. You know, your lymphatic system, if it doesn't drain well, it can cause a wide variety of symptoms. So we got to get that to drain better, okay? It's like a big drainage funnel. And so then eventually the organs and the cells and the tissues can dump their toxins. You know, if those toxins can't dump out of the body, guess what? We have dis-ease starting in those areas. Okay. So we're far too toxic. We're far too deficient. it messes with your body's innate rhythm to heal itself. Again, because your body can't get rid of the toxins, it can't do the work. The toxins are causing inflammation, they're causing damage to the tissues and the organs. We're healthy by design, right? We born on day one perfect, right? God didn't make a mistake. And we're sick by default because we just don't know what we don't know. And the agencies that are supposed to protect us from the toxins, they just don't, for whatever reason. Again, we have over 10,000 chemicals in our food supply and products that other countries just don't allow, including fluoride, right? The CDC just admitted that, yes, fluoride is toxic and it does lower the IQ of children. But I don't see my local municipalities getting it out of my water supply. Do you? I mean, I don't see it. So hopefully we can cause a stink. Maybe I need to start a revolution. I don't know. But what I'm saying to you is it's a shame. Our health agencies that are supposed to protect us come out and say, hey, by the way, this is a problem, especially for young children. And there's really no action. So I'm hoping to see that in the future, but here we are. And we don't catch disease, we earn it. We don't realize we're earning it, but we earn it, right? Less than 10% of what happens to you has anything to do with your genetic makeup. Do you understand? Less. It's not always because your dad had heart disease that you're going to have heart disease. That's not the truth. It's your diet and lifestyle is 90% or more of what happens to you. We've been lied to, right? We've been lied to. I used to think it was just ignorance, but I feel now it's a blatant lie for whatever reason. And I get a little passionate about that. Can you tell? I get a little passionate because I see so many people in our community and kids in our community that are just sicker and sicker, and they're on more and more medications. Somebody needs to put a halt to it. And that somebody, I hope, is me. That's my hope. I have the joyful obligation now of taking care of my community in the best way that I can so that people who have asthma and allergies, they don't have to have it anymore. They don't have to, right? It's not for you. It wasn't for me. I learned that very well. So back to this, because I think this is important. You need to understand, anytime we have symptoms of allergies and asthma, we have nutritional deficiencies, okay? And because we have nutritional deficiencies, we have organs that are not functioning properly, okay? And so this becomes a downward spiral of symptoms that come more often and they're more severe. It's like a downward spiral. And like I said, we have to find the halt. Guess what beverage was my favorite beverage when I was a kid? A teenager particularly. Take a guess. I'm old enough that they were in glass bottles even back then. Dated myself. Not milk, no. No, close though. Diet Mountain Dew. Well, it wasn't diet initially. That was college, but Mountain Dew in a glass bottle. When I first started driving, my mom had a big conversion van. It was blue, and I had an Ooga horn. And I go down to what I call the pop shop in the morning and get myself the Mountain Dew. And I pull back into school with my Mountain Dew, drink it on the way in. No wonder I had asthma and allergies. I was drinking brominated vegetable oil first thing in the morning as a 16-year-old. Holy wow. I just didn't know what I didn't know though, right? Okay, so downward spiral, organ dysfunction. This is where we're at, and you could put any symptom in that top box. You could put headaches. You could put, angina. You could put gallbladder issues. You could put lupus. You could put anything, rheumatoid arthritis. And the same is true, right? So what we do in clinical practice is we start putting in the nutrition. And when we start putting in the nutrition, then guess what? The organs start functioning better. And when the organs start functioning better, guess what? The symptoms get better. Do you see what I'm saying? It's just normal geometry. You alter any one side of a triangle, you're going to alter the other two. It just is that's the way it works, right? So that's what we do. Okay. So are you still eating sugar? Because sugar does the same thing, by the way. Sugar, you could put sugar at the top of that triangle. Every time you have sugar, you're going to create nutritional deficiencies and you're going to create organs that are not functioning well. And the more you do it, the worse it's going to get. Okay? Are you already deficient in certain vitamins and minerals? Vitamins, minerals serve as fuel for your organs, and you can assume that those organs are not working at 100%, okay? That's a safe assumption. When your organs are not working at 100%, their ability to absorb and uptake nutrition and digest and utilize vitamins and minerals is lesser than, right? It diminishes. And it's a vicious cycle, like I said. The more deficient we are, the more severe our symptoms are. The more severe our symptoms are, the more we go to the doctor. The more we go to the doctor, the more medicine we get on. The more medicine we get on, the more hospital visits we have, right? Because medications have their own side effects, and they deplete certain nutrients, like statins deplete CoQ10. And you would be surprised how many, and I know doctors know this, but how many patients come into our clinical practice that are on statins that have no idea that they should be taking CoQ10. They have no idea because nobody told them. And that to me is really sad. It's really sad. Okay. So, on the next slide, we're talking about the HALT, okay? What is the HALT? The HALT is what we do in clinical practice. The HALT is adding in the nutrition that you've been missing, getting the organs to work better, getting the drainage funnel to work better, getting your detox pathways open so that you can dump toxins and your body can heal itself, because that's how you're designed. Everybody knows this, but we forget it, right? Everybody knows. Even a surgeon knows, because he's going to cut you open and fix you, put you back together, and he knows that your skin is going to heal. My dad just had a hip replacement a few weeks back, like 3 weeks back, and his skin is healing. His bone is healing to the appliance. He's healing, right? Your body is designed to heal. But we just forget that, right? We don't know how to make it happen. So, number one, we're going to find what specific vitamin or mineral deficiency you already have. And then we're going to find exactly what organs are being affected. And then we're going to fix and handle it once and for all with the right nutritional supplement, right? That's what we're going to do. Oh, somehow my slides got, I wanted that slide before that, but go ahead and to the next slide. Yeah, this one I wanted before that, but that's okay. Again, sugar causes nutritional deficiencies, which causes organ dysfunction. All right. This was me as a kid. I had too much sugar. I ate sugar all the time. We always had Kool-Aid. We always had Kool-Aid. It was always in the fridge. In fact, my mother, bless her heart, rest her soul, I was in the basement of her house, my parents' house, not too long ago, looking for something in the cupboards in the basement, and I found the old pitcher that she used for Kool-Aid. And then I also found the old one. These are the green and orange ones for the milk bags. Remember the milk bags that you cut the corner off? And do you remember that? Totally blew my mind. I just, reminiscing, brought a tear to my eye. But anyway, sugar definitely does that. And you wonder why I was so asthmatic, right? Why at the young age I ran around that track and then could not breathe, right? So ask yourself, allergies, asthma, something you want to handle, right? Like those of you who are watching at home, is asthma and allergies something that you need to get a handle on? I believe it is, right? And how is it affecting your life already? For me, not only could I not make it around the track as a young girl, I was a dancer and I wanted to dance. And I did dance, but I had to always have my inhaler. And I was on a dance team once upon a time, and I had to try out for it. And because I had to use my inhaler so much, I got the runners-up spot, which was heartbreaking for me. I got to do all the things, but not all the things, right? And so it did set me back. It set me back. I wasn't the dancer that I wanted to be, I think, because of it, because I had restrictions, because I couldn't breathe, because I couldn't do this. I couldn't do it all out. I couldn't do this, And so in that way, it definitely, and I certainly did not run track, right? I didn't play a lot of sports. I was a dancer, but I certainly wanted to be able to be better. Okay. So, and And what is it going to be like in the future if you don't get a handle on it? Well, I mean, had I not got a handle on it, I wouldn't be here today, first of all, right? And I would still be having an inhaler in my purse. Who knows how sickly of a person I would be with that. Maybe it would have changed into more of a COPD type of presentation, right? Because it's obstructive. It could have been more of a inhaled steroid every day instead of just a rescue inhaler. Long-acting bronchodilator with a long-acting steroid. Hospital visits, right? Maybe some prednisone, on and off. Antibiotics for my chronic, bronchitis. Yeah. I mean, that's the road I was headed on. That was, honest to goodness, the road I was heading on. So I needed to change something, and so do you. If that's you, you need to change something. You need to find somebody that can help you, and you need to understand that you can be helped, right? The doctors don't know what they don't know either. They're not trained in the fact that you can heal from that. It's not their fault. They're just not trained that way, at least most of them. There are a few that understand it, but most of them don't. So what we do, for those of you who do not know, is muscle testing, and it's called applied kinesiology. That's what it's called, okay? Been around for over 100 years, and it works really well. It's weird, but we're okay with weird because weird works, right? And we know what to do and how to do it, and we love getting people well. And we don't want our community to suffer, and so that's why we do it, okay? It's designed clinical nutrition specifically for the people in front of us, right? Again, I used to work in a hospital, and you could come into the ER and CHF, and you could come into the ER and CHF, and guess what? You're both going to get the same exact treatment with exception of your known drug allergies, right? It's called evidence-based practice. That's what they do. The order set comes up, and doctor's like, yep, we're good, right? You're going to get the IV, you're going to get the Lasix, you're going to get the X-ray, you're going to get the EKG, you're probably going to get a catheter, right? To pee out all the extra fluid, especially if you can't get up and down easily, you're definitely going to get that, right? This is not what we do. This is absolutely not what we do. You can come to me with seemingly same issues, the same problems, but your program's going to look completely different because it's designed specifically for you, right? That's why it works. That's why it works. What we're looking for is overall health, right? Overall health. There you go. One more, Gabby. Overall, my clicker's not working. I'm holding on to it like it works, but it doesn't work. So I don't know. I'm used to having it in my hand though, so I keep picking it up like, oh, maybe it's going to work. I prayed over it. It didn't work, but yeah, it'll work. We'll figure it out. So Gabby's my clicker. So designed clinical nutrition, goal is overall health, right? Optimizing your health and keeping you there because you deserve to be healthy. You deserve to be healthy. And what we use is just safe and natural. We don't have side effects to what we use, right? We really don't. If we respect how the body wants to heal, 99.9% of the time, our patients don't have any problems. And if it is a problem, it's what we call a healing reaction, a healing crisis, or a Herx reaction, okay? And that's something we can handle, right? And so that's pretty exciting news, isn't it? That's pretty exciting news that you don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to wet your pants. I'm telling you, years ago when I saw the first Poise commercial that I saw, I got upset. I stood in front of my TV and I'm like, no, it's not normal. So then I felt like, okay, I got to do a video. So I sat in my car, I drove to the office and I sat in the parking lot of my car and I did a video about women in this incontinence business and how it's common, but it's certainly not normal, right? Same thing with men. It's not normal. And so we just don't know what we don't know until one day somebody gives you a binder and a drainer and whoa, things change dramatically. So keep that in mind. You never know what your body's capable of in the world of healing. Okay, you just got to unlock it. So for those of you at home that are watching, or if you catch this later, we do initial assessment that is 2 visits. It's the first part is clinical, and it involves a heart rate variability study. And you're like, what is that? Well, it's a study of your autonomic nervous system function, your sympathetic and parasympathetic. How well is it regulating? How well overall physiologically healthy are you? And it's a trending tool. We use it as a trending tool. We also do what's called body composition analysis, and that just allows us to understand how well you're hydrating, how well your bone health or how muscle mass is, your bone mass and your fat mass and all the things. And so that's part of a trending tool also for us, because some people come to us and they really want to lose weight, and that allows us to kind of see things and monitor them closely. Then I do the applied kinesiology or the muscle testing, and I develop a program just for them specifically. And then they go home and they write up a food log for me, because that's very important, right? We talked a lot about food. And they bring it back and they come for the second visit, which is called report of findings. And we sit down and we discuss all the clinical stuff. I'm not going to hide anything from you. There's no guessing game, right? I'm going to lay it all out, and you're going to know exactly what I found, how my program works, and what your responsibility as a patient in our office is. Okay. And so if you're watching tonight and you like what you heard and you're suffering and you don't want to suffer anymore, I want you to come from awareness where you're at now into action. Okay. Just take that step. It's just a baby step in the right direction to get the care that you really truly need, and to learn about how your body functions and how you can serve it better so that you can get the results you're looking for. Because I'm a living example that you do not have to suffer with allergies and asthma. You absolutely do not. And so if you have children, and there's so many children, in fact, like 27% of our kids today have allergies, and like 32% of our adult population have allergies, that's a fail. It's a huge fail, in my opinion. And so we need to understand that, it's not going to be okay to just keep running for the Zyrtec, right? It's just not going to be okay. There's better ways to do that. So all you have to do if you're watching from home and you want to take action is you call the office. First thing tomorrow, we're here from 9 to noon. Call, leave us a message if you don't get us. We'll call you back as soon as possible to get you on the schedule. It's only $75. If you mention to us that you were watching this, it's only $75. Do you know how much it costs to see a natural health practitioner in this town? Or like a naturopathic doctor or whatever? I mean, upwards to close to $1,500 in some instances, and that's just for the first visit. So I think that's a pretty darn tootin' good deal. That gets you the first 2 visits, okay? And share this with your friends and family. If you're currently a patient or you like what you're hearing, please share it. People don't need to suffer like they do, okay? Please share it. Tag us if you do whatever you got to do. That's kind of fun when people share our work and tag, all right? And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot. If you have any questions, you can always comment and we can get back to you. Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it. I know I was, sometimes in the spring when it gets sunny, people don't like to come out and sit in the chairs, but it was kind of gloomy today. So I was like, yes, it's gloomy. Even though I really like the sun too. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Catch the rest of our lives. We got another live hopefully coming later in the month. We go live every month and sometimes twice a month. So keep looking out for that. Watch our social media. Thanks. I think that's it. Awesome. Let me get this thing off my ear.